Audio's on, guys. Oh, there it is. Still got a little bit before we get started.
You know what it is, add 3 digits to the letter A, something like that.
We gotta wait till 5:15,
Because,
someone will get us in trouble. There, I've got it. Good evening, everybody. We had to wait for Caitlin to get here before we could start the meeting, so. Now that she arrived, we can get started. No, you're right at 5:15. You're just like clockwork, so perfect. Welcome to the Wenatchee City Council meeting for Thursday, February 9th, 2023. It is 5:15 p.m. I've called the meeting to order. We always start with the pledge to our flag. Councilmember Kulas, would you lead us?
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Kulas. We have 6 council members here today. Councilmember Poyer is gone on excused absence today. So we always start our meetings with citizen comment. So if you're here this evening and want to address the council on something that's, well, actually, we don't have any public hearing items tonight. So anything that's on today's agenda, feel free to come up and address us as long as it's not Linda and Rosa. Anybody else? Oh, you just walked up like you own
you're
the
gonna
place.
make this fun, aren't you?
Come on up.
Linda Haglin, and for a few more days, the Executive Director of the Wenatchee Downtown Association. I'm here tonight to say thank you. It's been a quick 12 years, hasn't it? I wish I'd have kept count the times I stood before this council. And, because it's been a lot. I've asked for things, I've reported on things, I've supported things, and I've thanked you for things. But overall, this council and our relationship with the staff at the city has made this a great job for me. And I think the downtown is better today because of our relationship. I want to thank you for taking my phone calls when I was more than passionate about things. And thank you for indulging my emails way too early in the morning because I come in at an ungodly hour. But more than anything, just thank you for your support. I get to turn this organization over to the future. And I'd like to introduce you, if you haven't met her, to Rosa Polito. I'm leaving this organization in great hands, and I look forward to her experiencing the same relationship I've had with the city.
Thank you, Linda. Hi, Rosa. How are you?
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm just really honored to have been chosen to lead the Downtown Association and really excited to continue working with all of the different partners that Linda's created over the past 12 years. And I look forward to the future and everything that we can accomplish together. So thank you.
So, just
you
a
on
couple
the 20th.
things. So, you're not going to share my cell phone number with Rosa.
Already have.
Already did.
Speed
Speed dial.
Did, and the chief.
Okay,
You got those two.
and Robbie.
And Rob
Robbie.
Richards
Okay.
and Jared
All right, that's all?
today. That's all so far.
So far,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Laura,
Feel free-
she already has your number.
Okay, feel free to share them with everything
That's
because
good,
we,
and we're gonna
we
have a
love the
meeting.
partnership
We're
and-
gonna
yeah.
have a meeting with her with some staff toward the end of the month.
okay.
And I will see most all of you on the 22nd. It's gonna be a
Yep.
special night downtown. We've got
Yep.
some fun awards like always.
Yep.
And, it's just gonna be a good evening, so thank you for coming. You always have supported us, but it's gonna be fun tonight. And Mayor, I gave you extra duties since it's also your last.
It is.
I know.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
guys. Thanks, Rosa. Thanks, Linda. All right, anybody else wish to address the council on something that's on tonight's agenda? Seeing no takers, we will move to our consent items, which includes approval of tonight's agenda vouchers and our minutes from the previous meetings. I'd entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda vouchers and minutes from the previous meetings.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Rojanostati and second by Councilmember Hornby to adopt this evening's consent items, including the agenda vouchers and minutes from our previous meetings. Any discussion from the council? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a few presentations tonight, but before we have our first presentation, Chief Crown wants to come up and talk a little bit about Special Olympics. We're going to get Chief in here first. He promised me he wasn't going to be long, so.
Oh, I'm going to be very short. Come before you tonight to kind of announce that since 1992, the city of Wenatchee has been involved with the Special Olympics, and we are home to the Winter Olympics. So you all have a card that's in front of you. This year, if we're able to, as a law enforcement group, raise $23,000 in 2023, you'll see yours truly dive into the Columbia River Lagoon at Wall Wall Point Park on March 3rd between 1 and 4 in a polar bear suit. So,
Excellent.
laying it down.
Okay.
Thank you for your support, and thank you for your support of the Special Olympics.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Yeah.
And so I can hit this little barcode to donate to you?
Just scan it with your phone.
Okay,
Takes you right to the deal.
perfect. Thanks, Chief.
Who wouldn't
All
want to
right,
see
so
that?
next up, we have Carrie Page, our HR Director, for some employee service milestones. So
Yes,
Carrie,
thank you
welcome.
for having me. And tonight I'm here for a great purpose in recognizing our employees who have service milestones. It's our opportunity to express our appreciation for their dedication and to the city of Wenatchee and their contributions to our city's success. I want to start with the list that we have in your package and just recognize he's not here tonight, but Terry O'Keefe, our utilities assistant manager, has reached 25 years of service with the city. So I want to make sure to mention that. And then 15 years of service with Cliff Burdick, our building fire official. He's not here this evening. And then also not here this evening is Denise Pierce, who reached 10 years, and she's our accounting supervisor. All excellent employees. So we appreciate their service. In 5 years, we have Officer Magnuson and our utility worker, Andy Gill. And here with us tonight, Mayor, if you wouldn't mind stepping down for a picture, we have Kelsey Grover, who's our stormwater technician in our Public Works Department, and she has a cheering squad back there. And then and then our very own Human Resources Generalist, Caitlin Hinkey, is at 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Certificates. And if you wouldn't mind stepping in front of the council, and I'll get a picture.
I want to make sure Tom's in it.
Yes, make sure. Okay. Yeah, make sure it's right side up. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Top's in it.
Oh, I tried to.
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Be kind.
All right. So our next presentation is one that's very special to the city and I think new this year, National Random Acts of Kindness Day proclamation. Travis Hornby? would
Yes,
you
Your
read
Honor, I
into
have
the record,
that.
And then we'll have some folks come up.
Proclamation, City of Wenatchee for National Random Acts of Kindness Day, February 17th, 2023. Whereas the City of Wenatchee recognizes and values the simple acts of kindness performed without promoting a reason, and how these acts can positively impact the performer, the recipient, and onlookers for the good deed. And whereas random acts of kindness contribute to personal happiness and the community well-being, economic prosperity, and vitality. And whereas people of any age can participate in random acts of kindness anytime, any place, and for the unselfish purpose of spreading goodwill. And whereas by providing random acts of kindness and reaching out to one another regardless of social or economic status, education, religious beliefs, age, or abilities, we extend the opportunity for grace, dignity, acceptance that might otherwise not be offered. Now, therefore, I, Frank Kuntz, Mayor of the City of Wenatchee, do hereby proclaim February 17th, 2023 as Random Acts of Kindness Day in the City of Wenatchee, and ask our residents and our community to join with me to recognize and perform random acts of kindness, and furthermore, encourage and challenge the City of Wenatchee and its residents to make random acts of kindness for the entire year of 2023. In witness, therefore, I have caused the seal of the City of Wenatchee to be affixed to this 9th day of February 2023. Frank J. Kuntz, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Hornby. Come on up, Gene. Gene. Oh, I ended up with Travis's,
Oh,
Come on up. How are you?
they work together.
It's all yours.
Well, Mayor Kuntz and members of the council, thank you so much for having us here tonight. A group of us got together after the first of the year, and we thought, you know, we have more in common than we have our differences across the state and the community in our country, and too much is pulling us apart. And we thought, what are the common things that we have among our demographic groups? And it's kindness, it's thoughtfulness, and it's civility, and it's doing good deeds. So we thought, let's get together and let's make 2023 a year where we do 2023 acts of kindness in our community and sets the example for our youth, our faith groups, our schools, and others in our community to do that. We just decided that we would start in January, and we meet every Thursday from 2 to 3 o'clock at the Community Foundation, and we have 6 cities that are doing proclamations to this already, with 3 more continuing to look at that as well. It's going to be throughout Northern Washington, but we wanted to start it in the greater Wenatchee area because I think this is a hub where we have a great media presence, whether it be radio or TV or newspaper, whatever it is. It's also a community that has a history of acts of kindness. Make a Difference Day, Light the Bridge. I could go on and on for all the things we've done over the year that have brought us together, not separated us. Our issue is to bring us together around common acts of kindness for 2023. We have a website that'll be launched tomorrow. We have a Facebook page going out. We have PSAs that'll start tomorrow as well. So we've been working for the last month and a half on a very comprehensive media approach to this whole thing. So we call it a soft lunch tomorrow. There's so much excitement in this group, we have to kind of control it actually, because we're a little afraid we're going to get out so far ahead of ourselves, but it has really taken off. It's just fantastic. City of Cashmere, Moses Lake, Leavenworth, they're all involved in this as well and be doing proclamations. So it's going to be area-wide. We've got youth groups, we've got faith groups, we've got service clubs. Everybody's on board. It's really a tremendous opportunity to do things for our community. Our purpose is to inspire and to recognize and to contribute to acts of kindness. We're not a group that's going to do all the acts of kindness. That's kind of the opposite. We want to be an organic group that gets it out there and spreads it and encourages people to do it. So we're excited about that. The newspaper has agreed to put a column in the paper starting in a couple of weeks called Kindness Counts. On our website, people will fill out a little form. Either they were a recipient, they did it, or they saw an act of kindness. And the newspaper is going to have 3 of those every week in the paper. So it reminds people all the time about acts of kindness going forward. So that should be a really nice thing for us as well. The vision really came out of a group of 4 or 5 people. It's expanded now to 20, 30 people in our group on a regular basis that come and be part of that. It's just fantastic. The National Random Acts of Kindness, as was said, was February 17th. That's one day. We want to make this for a whole year, not just today, because we're a community that I think has contributed so much to kindness. We want to continue that going forward. Your approval of the proclamation tonight, I think, really demonstrates your leadership, again, as a city, that kindness matters. And let's set the example for others about that. Again, not to repeat myself, but we have to get away from what we have as differences and instead go to what we have in common. And I think all of us agree that kindness, thoughtfulness, and civility matters, and it particularly matters to youth groups. And I go around and talk to schools quite often, and I've been sharing this with youth groups, and they keep telling me, you know, Mr. Sherritt, we're hungry for this. We need to see adults behave in such a way that sets an example for us going forward. So I'm really inspired by the youth groups we talk to because they see this as extremely important going forward. As I mentioned, we're a loose group of people, and we're not a 501c3. We're just a group of people, citizens who want to come together for a common purpose there. So we're not a fundraising group. We're not asking you for anything at all. We're just here to say, join us. Thank you for that opportunity to do that. I mentioned we have 6 cities and we have 3 or 4 more on the line. We want to incorporate this in a lot of activities going forward. A Kindness Friday. We've got a lot of businesses and others that said we want to be part of a Kindness Friday activity. We want to make it part of Make a Difference Day. Weave that back into that. Cinco de Mayo, for instance. We've got several Spanish radio stations that are involved in this as well. 4th of July, we want to kind of do a spring into kindness. We want to do a summer fun with kindness, fall into kindness. So we want to have a lot of events throughout the year that just keep it surfacing going forward. We have a calendar that starting in January and goes to December. Every single day on that calendar is an activity, every single day. So when people say, I don't know what to do, give us a call. We'll give you calendars every single day with an activity right there, so it should be really good. We want to get involved in the Winter Special Olympics, okay? I just wrote that down, thank you. And I got your card. And I'll be down there to contribute as well, so with that. And so we would encourage you to have people get a hold of us. You have a little logo right there, which we'll put also on our website on that. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of us in the community. We appreciate your leadership, we appreciate your example, and look forward to working with you throughout the year. So may I have some of the committee members introduce themselves? And let me start with Melanie. They don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it. Melanie, go ahead. Melanie McQuaig. Kerr. You know Linda, and Rosa's on that group as well. So really nice group of people. Everybody comes together with their heart to make a difference for this community. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Rosa, there you are. Oh. Another member of our group over here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay, ready? Okay, we're ready.
Photo op. Say cheese.
There you go. There you go. There's a be kind.
You guys are just get here. This is a photo shy group right here.
Abby. Abby's in the group. Oh, not Abby.
Okay,
Oh, not Abby.
all right. 3, 2, 1, cheese.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Really
Good
appreciate
to
it.
do for our community. That's a
Absolutely.
tough group you're hanging with over there.
I know it. They keep down my toes, trust me.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
So Patrick, how do you top that, dude? Huh? You kidding me? Come on up and let us know what's going on in our Douglas County trends, for those
All
that
right.
don't know.
So Tammy, are we set up here? Okay. Is that you?
Zach, you got it?
Trying to log you in, so I need somebody to log me in here. So it's good to be back. I think it's been 3 years since I was before you last, and I've always looked forward to these annual updates based on the trends. I think this is the third meeting room I've been in with you over the years, and this is very nice space, so it's
Thank you. Let's hope our technology works the way it's supposed to work.
I'm sure it will. So what I thought I'd do today is just go over a few. We don't have a lot of time. I'll just cover, somewhat like I've done before, 4 or 5, 6 indicators that I think might be relevant to your work, and set the frame for maybe some discussion that you might have among each other. So let's go there. Chelan Douglas trends. Can't reach that page. Okay, I think I know what's going on here. Oops. See if that does it. There we go. Okay. First thing I want to talk about is population. So I guess you can see in your screens in front of you. And
Hopefully when it pops up, I don't know if we've got it or Zach's got it. We're still looking at what you're looking at, so. What's that? Okay.
should I wait?
Nope.
You there? Do you see anything in front of you?
Yeah, I see a guy rolling.
Okay.
Is that you?
Okay. For those of you who have heard this presentation before in various guises, I think you know that we show typically for the 2 counties, and then we drill down to each county. And then what I'm going to spend my time on tonight is obviously looking at the city of Wenatchee. But before I go there, I just want to point out that over the last 5 years, the 2 counties together have grown about 5,000 people. So that's a pretty decent rate. Chelan County has grown about 3,000 people, and Wenatchee has grown by about 1,000 over the last 5 years. The growth rates, which I have down here, and I'll just get rid of some detail here. This is the two counties combined, and this is the city of Wenatchee in red. So recently, you've been growing sort of in a very irregular pattern compared to the metro area, if you will, the two counties. But that's just true with a small population. And you had a big growth spurt here in the 2020, which was actually a census. So I found that interesting. So generally, the entire area is growing faster than the U.S., but slower than the state of Washington. So U.S. is growing about 0.5 to 0.6%. State of Washington is growing about 1.5%, and you're growing a little less than 1% per year. So I just want to pause here and ask the question that may have come up with you before. What happened in terms of any influx from people from larger communities, larger metro areas coming into this area? We ask that question, I hear that question a lot in Eastern Washington and in Spokane, and there's a presumption that there was a big flow to communities east of the mountains from, say, the Seattle area. And I guess my initial answer is I don't know. I have a couple of guesses. There's obviously no turnstile at the border that tells you you're entering the city of Wenatchee, you're entering Chelan County. But I found it striking that we did have a pretty big increase in the city of Wenatchee between 2020 and 2019, big considering the size of the community, about 1,000. And if we look at another graph, which I'm not going to pull up, in net migration, it's also quite strong. And of course, that would reinforce what's going on with any sort of movement out of big cities into moderate-sized cities. So I'm going to come back to that at the very end of my talk and just say, is this a future for this community? Because I do think if it is, it would be a pretty positive development that you had that kind of inflow. But I just want to stop right here and say that we now have a forecast through 2040 for the county, for both counties. We don't have a forecast for the city. This is from the Growth Management Act that comes out as Mr. Kulash, I'm sure, works with and knows that this is something that's done every 5 years. And 2022, late November, that forecast came out. And so the forecast for Chelan County from now through 2030, through 2030 is a gain of 5,000 people. So that's not a small number, I think, given the size of the population. And the question is, what will Wenatchee's share of that be out of that 5,000 that's likely? And by the way, their forecasting record is pretty good in the near term. So I wouldn't say you can take it to the bank, but it's still a pretty reliable number. And so if you just look back at what you have made up as a city of the total population of the county, it's about 43 to 45%, depending on the year, of the total population of the county. So let's say it's 44,000, just to take the average. That would mean that you would have over the next 8 years, 2,200 new residents in the city, which is about a little less than 300, which you can translate that into a demand for housing units as well. So that's kind of the forecast that I would see for you from now through 2030, picking up 2,200 at a minimum, I think, and that will translate into a certain number of people you'll see in the city boundaries every year. And I always like to ask this question, what kind of growth rate would you like to have if you could wave your magic wand? Would it be faster than that rate, or would it be slower? And depending on maybe where you where you are in terms of your time in the community, you might say, we're fine the way it is. If you're big on economic development, you'll say, we want more. So, I think that's going to be an interesting question to see how that pans out in your community. The second thing I'd like to point out, beyond just sheer numbers, is your age, and that's plural, ages. And we look at this a couple different ways, but for the city of Wenatchee, we can look at it through the median age of the population. And what we find when we look at the metro area, the two counties, is that it's a bit older. Traditionally, it's been older than the state of Washington and the United States by median age. However, and as you can see, the gap is narrowed. This is the two counties combined, and this is the city of Wenatchee. You have a very young population relative to the community you live in. So I found that characteristic pretty interesting. And let me see, this is 35 years, which is 2 or 3 years less than the median age of the state of Washington and less than the median age of the United States. So you can see that that's kind of come up a little bit in recent years, but it's still quite young. It's not as young as Pasco. It's not as young as Franklin County, where the median age is under 30. Very, very young population, but it's still relatively young. And for those of you who are new to the council, at least new to my presentations to the council, I just would like to point out that for every indicator, we offer a brief bit of context. So we say, why should we consider this? We actually go through and tell you where we are. And in some cases, we'll tell you, is this a statistically significant difference from the start of the series? And then we'll take you right to the data source, which some people like to see. But we're just not going to look at those parts of the trends tonight. I just want to show you the graphs. The third and final piece on demographics I'd like to show you is looking at people of color in your community. So this is a pretty busy graph, but let me just take out Washington and give you the big picture for the two counties combined. We have three groups here: Hispanics, Latinos, African Americans, Native Americans, Asians, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders, and then finally we have two or more races. So this is the U.S. composition as of 2021. These are estimates from census. About 42% of the country were people of color. In the two counties, it was about, you can see here, 35%. And for the city of Wenatchee, quite a bit more. And let's just take the two counties off of here. And you can see, just looking at this estimate from 2021, it's actually a little more than that, but I won't go into all the details. So currently, the total share of the people of color in this community is over 40%. And that's driven by the Latino Hispanic population at 35%, different races at 2%, and then two or more races at a little less than 4%. So I just asked myself the question, again, looking at the future, what does this mean for the city of Wenatchee? And if, and that's a big if, we see the trends of the last decade continue, the city will be a majority minority city by the end of the decade. That's what the numbers say. I don't know whether that will happen, because what we see is immigration tapering off and we see birth rates in general going down. but it will be pretty close to a 50% share of the population by people of color in Wenatchee. So you will then join, if and when that happens, the Yakimas, the Pascos, who are already in that position. Okay, so those are three sort of big demographic trends that I'd like to bring to your attention. Then I got a couple on economic and business. So I'm going to just talk about the one that I always like to feature. It's called median household income. And it's probably the best measure of how we're doing in one single number that I can think of. So it's income, which is very comprehensive, which includes what we earn, what we make in our investments, and what we get from the federal government and transfer payments. It's households, and that's the way most of us live. We don't live in a solitary way. We live in a family, we live various folks under one roof. And it's a median. And a median is a little different than an average or a mean in certain things like income distribution, because it doesn't take more than a couple Steve Ballmers and Bill Gates to make a big difference between the average and the median. The median in that sense is a better measure of the middle. So here's what it looks like for the communities overall. The blue line is Chelan-Douglas counties. And you can see you have been quite close. You've been hugging the level of household income that we see in the country. 69,000. It was a little lower this last year versus 65,000. You and everybody else in Eastern Washington were far lower than the state income levels. And I think we know the reason for that. There's one particular county that really drives the numbers. Having said that, among the areas and we track all the metro areas in Eastern Washington, you are the second highest as a two-county area. You're ahead of Spokane, but you're behind the Tri-Cities in terms of your incomes. So what does that look like for Wenatchee? You are the red line, and you can see that you have consistently, almost in every period, been below the two-county average. But when I stared at these a little more preparing for this talk, it's pretty clear that if you look at the last few years, that there's a pretty nice incline, upward sloping line that is different than the prior years where it was flat. So in the last few years, you've had some nice income growth in the city. And again, I think there's some reasons for that. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I think that's a fairly positive trend to see that going back to 2016 to see those numbers go up so much. Let me switch though to from looking at the middle to looking at the bottom. And we're going to look at the poverty rate. This is anywhere from 10 to 20% of a population, depending. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the way this is typically done, I'm just going to click this off. It's measured as the share of the population who live at or below the federal poverty level. So the federal poverty level is set every year, depends on family size, and depends on the inflation factor. For 2021, the federal policy, the FPL for the country, it doesn't vary by geography, was 26,000 for a family of four. It was 17,000 for a single person. Okay, so if you are, just by definition then, if you are a family of four and your income, total income is 28,000, you're not in poverty, or you're not in the 100% level of poverty. Obviously, there's different, if you look at the Medicaid system, and what we now have with the Affordable Care Act, you can still get services at various graduations of that poverty level, 150%, 200%. But typically what's measured, I think nationwide, is just this 100% level. So the blue line here is kind of in between what we see the poverty rate, and this is for the two counties, for the US, which is higher, and the state of Washington, which is lower on a consistent basis. But let's look at Wenatchee. And I'll just take out the numbers and just show you the rate. And here is the rate for the city of Wenatchee. You can see it's basically, I didn't average this, I should have, it's about equal to what we're seeing in the two counties. And so the most recent observation we have is 10% of your population is in poverty. That has come down a lot. I could go further back and show you, but that poverty rate's come down a lot. Something to celebrate. It's still a little bit higher, however, than the overall metro area, but not by much, not by much. So what drives income and what drives poverty? Typically where we work. How much we earn depends on where we work. So I'm gonna just show you a couple from this particular section. And if you're not, I don't know if I've showed this to you before. It's looking at the top 5 employing sectors in your community. And I'm going to just click off the state of Washington and focus in on the most recent year for the two counties. And I use the two counties here in part because we can't get data for the city of Wenatchee, but also because the labor shed, or where people live and work, varies. And so it really makes sense to sort of cast the net a little more broadly than just sticking within the boundaries of one particular jurisdiction. So here are your top 5 employing industries. Number 1, agriculture. Number 2, government. Number 3, healthcare. Number 4, retail. And number 5, hospitality. So accommodation, food services. Once you get beyond these 5 top sectors, the numbers drop off real quickly. So you do not have big sectors in some of the other sectors that typically rank in the top 8 or 10, such as construction, such as manufacturing, such as what we call professional technical services, which Mayor Kuntz's profession would be a part of accounting. So how have we done over time? This is, to me, is pretty interesting because we are changing in the country in terms of where people work, and it's changing here too. So over time, agriculture, let me just build this up real quickly. Over time, agriculture has diminished. It's diminished not only as a share of total employment, but it's diminished in total numbers. So I find that interesting, that agriculture started out here 15 years ago at almost a quarter of the workforce, and it's currently at 19% of the workforce. That's the only sector where we've seen that change. Government has remained quite steady in terms of its numbers and its share. So 16% versus 18%. So it's actually come down as a part of our workforce. And government includes federal employees, state employees, employees at jurisdictions like the cities of Wenatchee and East Wenatchee, but most importantly, school districts. School districts are the largest component of government, and local government's the largest component of government. Okay, here's the big story in terms of the changes over the last few years. It's healthcare. And even though this is at the 2-county level, I think we all know that healthcare is centered in the city of Wenatchee. So the current share of the workforce taken up by healthcare is almost 14%, or 1 out of every 7 jobs in the 2 counties is healthcare, and before it was a little over 1 out of every 10. So to me, that's one of these very interesting stories that has happened over the last decade in your community. Retail trade, I think Wenatchee's always been known for having a strong retail trade center. People come from several counties to do their shopping here. This has remained largely steady. You see about 12% most recently, and before that it was about the same at 11.6%. And the final one of the big 5 is accommodation and food services, which took a big hit, obviously, in 20 and 21. So I'm going to show you 2019, because that's more likely what I think will be normal. Although it's pretty clear that this industry has had lots of problems finding workers again, if you haven't followed that. So 10% of the 10% of the workforce were in the hospitality business pre-pandemic, up from 8.5%. So the 2 growth areas, healthcare and, if you will, tourism. Although obviously those of you who live here patronize restaurants just as much as tourists, perhaps. I'm going to do that as soon as I'm done here. Okay, so why this matters is the earnings are so different depending on where you work. And I'll show you this real quickly. This is under the income section, and these are the average wages in the top 5 sectors that I just showed you. I'm going to click off Washington again, because we're not making that comparison. And just looking at these 5 lines in front of you then, there's a big difference between those top 2 lines and those bottom 3 lines. The average, as you might expect, is in between. It's about $48,000, $49,000 a year, the average annual wage in this community. The real high earners are, well, relatively speaking, are government, again, all kinds of government, and healthcare. And then there's this large gap here in the middle, and then you have retail trade, agriculture, and then the accommodations and food services business. So, you know, I asked myself this question: what would it take to raise the overall annual wage in this community? Which I think would then, well, we know that would raise your incomes, and if it raises incomes, that would have a lot of positive effects for city operations. Well, you can either grow jobs that are already paying fairly highly, and I think healthcare is going to continue to do that. I doubt whether government's going to grow that much. So what are the options then in front of you? And I think that's an interesting conversation, which we don't have a lot of time for tonight, but there are some, from what I understand, there are some interesting changes in the offing that could really bring up some of the employment in higher paying sectors, such as professional and technical services, perhaps even banking. And getting back to that have laptop, will travel kind of professional that we would all like to have in our communities, how much of that will you be able to attract? But that is a big question which I'm sure we're not going to solve tonight. So I want to end up my talk with something that I hope you'll find interesting. It's certainly been the subject of a lot of conversation in Spokane. And this is looking at how we work and how we get to work. So I'm just going to click all of this off and point out that this is a census question that says, how do you get to work? And there's 6 categories, we report 5. And the number one way of getting to work, other than driving your own car, these are all options to driving your own vehicle, in this area has traditionally been, well, let me go back to here, has traditionally been carpooling, followed by work from home, followed by walking, followed by biking, and I know I'm missing one, public transportation. So just look at what happened to that second bar between 2019 and 2021. 2020 is not available to us because census didn't look at the quality of the estimates very kindly. It said the pandemic really ruined our typical response rates, so we're not going to publish the data. So you don't see 2020 data here in a single year. But here's what it is for the two counties. It went, working from home went from 6% to 12% in 2 years. So, that has some implications for a lot of things. That has implications for our transportation system. That has implications if you have a downtown like Spokane that's gotten pretty hollowed out with a lot of office workers. I don't know if you have that issue here. And it could be reflecting that elusive have laptop will travel professional that we would like to see in our community as well. That could be a factor here. We just don't know. But it seems like that's fairly important. Now, when we get to Wenatchee, it's a little different. And this is a little puzzling, but I hope I won't confuse you too much by saying these are estimates that are done every year. To get census to give us insights into life in the city of Wenatchee, they roll up 5 years worth of information because otherwise the sample size would be too small at 35,000 people. It just wouldn't work. So what I'm going to show you now is something for the city of Wenatchee from census that was released for 2021, but it really represents 5 years worth of data. So we're not going to see, unfortunately, the true effect in the city of Wenatchee on this work from home phenomenon for another few years, because this estimate right here for 2021 contains numbers from 2020, 2019, 2018, and 2017, where we didn't have the pandemic. But even then, the work from home component here is relatively small and doesn't seem to have budged much from prior years. So this is something I'm going to be watching because I do think that you have work from home. My guess is you've got more people working from home than you did before. It's just not showing up yet in the ability of census to measure what's going on. So that's once over lightly. I've got I think that was 6 or 7 measures. There's a total of 100, I counted them before I came, 157 measures of life in the two counties here. 57 of those are available at the city level. And so that's not a bad set of metrics that you guys can look at. And for those of you who heard me before, you know that Chelan Douglas Trends is sponsored by a coalition of folks, including the city. So thank you very much. And we work real hard with our interns when these data releases come out to get them up on the site as quickly as we can so that we're showing you as current information as possible. And I can tell you that we scrubbed this site pretty hard before I came over, and it's quite current. So I hope that it is of value to you. I know from my own family, from siblings who have been in politics and public policy, that they need data fast, and they need it well explained, and they need it to be nonpartisan, and we hope we're providing that for you. So with that, I don't know if you have any questions.
Oh, thanks, Patrick. It's always fascinating to
give you a little update here.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see those things. I think the change from an ag-based community to a different based community, we've all sort of seen that happening over time. It's nice to see our income levels are sort of popping just a little bit,
Right.
and I think to be on a nice trend. I always figured we were about a third of minority populations. You're telling me that we always know it's growing, and we agree with you. It's going to be 50%
Yeah.
soon. And it's nice to see the number that's actually closer to 40% than I
Yeah.
always said, about a third. So
Yeah.
that stuff's all, and I think, again, when I look at the 30,000-foot level of City of Wenatchee in particular, we still have some room for growth to accommodate those 300 or so folks over the next 10 years or the next 3,000 people.
Right.
It's the 3,000 after that probably is not going to be inside the city limits of our city, because we are very much.
Yeah, well, I'm sure your
Very
planning
much stuck
department's
in-
thinking about that.
Yeah, and when you look at Pasco and other cities that can just keep expanding, we don't have that here. So we have to look at ourselves differently, and how
Right.
would be the best
Right.
urban center that we can be. And I think we're really focused on trying to make that happen here.
Well, you have some wonderful attributes to, I think, to make that happen if you wanted to pursue that, sort of a vision for the city.
Any questions or comments for Patrick?
Yeah, just one quick question. On the income on food services, the 10%, did that include the service charges that they're receiving, the gratuities? Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
income is a pretty broad net.
Yeah.
Includes everything. There's another measure of income that's reported largely via the IRS. So to the degree, but we don't have that for the city, so I can't share that with you. And to the degree that people are honest, it's accurate. This is from a survey, and so the same applies. Are people responding honestly to what the survey folks from Census are asking?
Yeah.
Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate you being here.
Happy to be here, and I read the Wenatchee World fairly regularly, and I understand that this might be my last opportunity to be in front of Mayor Kuntz, and so I just want to thank you for
welcome.
all the support and dialogue we've had over the
I've been
years.
involved with you long before I was mayor too, because I was on the group that helped set up which ones were going to be on this. And I was just thinking, I wrote down, how long have we been doing this?
Well,
15
for people who
years?
don't know, we've been doing this since 2008.
2008. So I said 15 years. That's pretty
2008.
close. Yeah.
So Spokane, Walla Walla, and then this area are the way it's rolled out over time. So,
Excellent.
yeah, it's been fun to be a part of your community and to be able to come over and talk in front of you. And for those of you who don't know, I was here, I think it was in early September, giving a talk to that intergovernmental
Yep.
group, and that was very enjoyable too.
Thanks, Patrick.
Okay, I'll sign out here.
All right, so council members, we okay to keep going? We got four action items, so we don't need a break. We'll go through them. Our first is regarding the convention center. So Alyssa,
Your Honor, I will recuse myself on this item.
all right, duly noted. Tammy, you got that? Hi, Alyssa, how are you?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Alyssa Schaefer, Facilities Manager for the Public Works Department. Well, 2 weeks ago, ALSC Architects, along with the stakeholders from the Coast Hospitality and Numerica PAC, presented the final schematic design concepts and details regarding the Wenatchee Convention Center renovation and expansion project. The outcome of that presentation was the direction to move forward with the design of both the renovation and the expansion of the facility. Council outlined the design preferences for this project, which include a two-story, 16,500 square foot expansion into the existing plaza along Wenatchee Avenue. This expansion includes 4,200 square foot of unfinished space for future use in the lower level. The preference to also renovate the existing Fuji and Gala breakout rooms were also stated to be a priority in the design. Tonight, I'm bringing the details of the contract amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with ALSC Architects for approval and authorization for the mayor's signature. The contract amendment amounts to $1,021,857 plus reimbursable expenses. If approved, this contract amendment will allow ALSC Architects to proceed with the design development, followed by the creation of the contract documents, as well as assist in the bidding process. These details are actually outlined in your council packet. It's different to stand. I would like to turn this over to any questions that you might have.
Any
With
questions for
regard to this
Alyssa? So this is the architect's contract to go to full design, take it all the way to the point of being able to get a bid packet together. All of that will happen this calendar year, you think?
Correct.
Okay.
We probably won't go to bid until January at the earliest.
And we expect to see them back here again with more final drawings for the council to look at 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, let me look real quick. We will be reviewing documents in May.
Okay,
The
More
next
defined
design,
drawings. Okay.
Yeah. So basically the month, mid-May to mid-June, we will have the opportunity to edit and review
okay,
what they put together.
perfect. Any questions for Alyssa? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion for the City Council to approve contract amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement between the City of Wenatchee and ALSC Architects for the Wenatchee Convention Center renovation and expansion project and authorize the mayor's signature.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Rojanowskian. For the City Council to approve the contract amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement between the City of Wenatchee and ALSC Architects for the Wenatchee Convention Center renovation and expansion project and authorize the mayor's signature. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you.
McKittrick Street, right-of-way services, Ryan Harmon.
Good evening, everybody. Ryan Harmon, project engineer with the Public Works Department. I'm here to ask for approval to move forward with a supplement for our McKittrick Street project. We hired SCJ Alliance about 8 months ago to do design, that being for McKittrick Street in front of the Public Services Center building, Pine Street to Pershing Street. We've done the preliminary work and gotten a preliminary footprint put together. And so now that we know what type of property acquisitions are needed, and this supplement is a result of that and the work that'll be associated with those negotiations. I'll keep this short and sweet. If you have any questions, please.
Fairly standard to acquire right-of-way when you're widening a road.
Yes.
Any questions for Ryan? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move for City Council to authorize the mayor to execute supplement number 1 with SCJ Alliance for right-of-way services for the McKittrick Street improvements, Pershing Street to Pine Street, City Project number 2208.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Harold, second by Councilmember Huffaker, to authorize the mayor to execute supplement number 1 with SCJ Alliance for right-of-way services for the McKittrick Street, Pershing Street to Pine Street, City Project 8. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Building this next year?
25.
25. All right. Would you put that in the record? It's 2025.
I shouldn't have spoken up, yeah.
Sometimes they'll slip to other years, so. So next up is McKittrick Street, authorization to negotiate. This does say this is Senior Project Manager Jake Lewing. Both of those would be incorrect. One, that's not Jake Lewing. And Jake has going to become our new city engineer. So his title would have changed had he been here, although I don't know if it's official yet, but we're excited that Jake's going to take on Gary Owen's old position, and Rob Jammerman's here to present tonight.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We gave Jake the night off because it's his wife's birthday, and we thought that was more important than presenting this, so.
Wasn't that the first test of the new city engineers to whether or not he would?
And he passed.
I know he did. He passed by flying colors, yeah.
So I volunteered to step in for him. It's interesting because Ryan just came before you to start this new project on McKittrick in front of the service center. We've done another piece of McKittrick down by the grocery store. And now we're moving across the street to the east. And if you sort of can envision what's happening in the city in this area, it's pretty remarkable. And what's really remarkable is the amount of state and federal funding that's coming into the city to build these amazing road projects. So I'm here tonight to request that the city authorize the mayor to negotiate with KPG Somas for construction engineering services on the McKittrick Street project, as we often call it now, the Mega Kittrick project. I wanted, Jake asked me to sort of give you a kind of just a brief overview. So we've awarded the contract to J&K Construction. Construction alone is $6.3 million. And the overall project from beginning to end, and we're gonna hover probably close to 10 million when we're all said and done. When we do a project like this, we need to bring a construction engineering company in to oversee it. We have obviously inspection. Jake says that we'll probably have the equivalent of 2 full-time inspectors on this job for over 10 months. There's review of all submittals. So as you can imagine, we need to order traffic signals now. Those are all done by the construction engineering company. We're required to have cultural resource inspection on all of our jobs now. So they're out there during construction. We're coordinating with the PUD on all their electrical and power work. There's, of course, complex traffic work, such as traffic control. There's a stormwater lift station. We're working in North Wenatchee Avenue, extensive underground utilities, and then a whole host of state and federal money that is part of this. And we rely on our construction engineering company to help us with all of those tasks. So we're asking that you approve this tonight to allow the mayor to negotiate this contract with KPG Somas. We normally wrap this into our project cost, but because this was 3 separate projects that we tied into one, the State Department of Transportation asked that we have a separate contract for construction engineering, and KPG was the selected consultant. So, any questions?
Starting construction in March?
First week of March, groundbreaking March 7th.
Okay. And then maybe done by the end of the year?
Yeah, 180 working days, so we
Okay.
should be done right
That's
near
a
the end.
short time frame
It
for a whole
is.
bunch of work. Yeah. And night work on North Wenatchee Avenue for the most part?
For the most part, especially we have a major power crossing with the PUD to get from the west side of McKittrick to the east side, and so that will be an open cut and will occur at night.
All right, any questions for Rob? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion for City Council to authorize the mayor to negotiate with KPG Somas for construction engineering services for the McKittrick Street, North Wenatchee Ave to BNSF project 0623 1615 1919, and further authorize the mayor to sign a contract on behalf of the city.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rojan-Astian, second by Councilmember Hornby, to authorize the mayor to negotiate with KPG Somas for construction engineering services for the McKittrick Street, North Wenatchee Avenue to Burlington Northern Santa Fe, project 0623 1615 1919, and further authorize the mayor to sign a contract on behalf of the city. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
And Laura, Imagine Wenatchee contract with Northwest Studio.
Yeah, can put my laptop over here. Good evening, Council. Laura Gloria, Executive Services Director. The item before you is a contract for $125,000 for the Reimagine Wenatchee Target Area Master Plan with Northwest Studio. You know, it's interesting to see the Wenatchee Convention Center and Mega Kittrick as your projects that are happening, and I'm bringing you planning for more projects. So this really came out of a housing summit that Our Valley, Our Future put together last year, and during that, there was a presentation by downtown stakeholder and business owner, Rory Turner, who put together this PowerPoint of all of the really great projects that are happening in the downtown waterfront area, the Future Widener Project, the Majestic, the Wenatchee Convention Center, the PUD, just so much stuff happening, and there was a lot of excitement on that. There's also a lot of okay, how do we make sure it's all working cohesively? How are we planning that area to make sure that we're, as the city, supporting it? And so with Rory and a lot of other downtown stakeholders, we started to look at putting together this master plan. So that's what this work will be. This will be to engage with Northwest Studio to help us start to look at that area, that target areas from Kittitas to Fifth Street and Chelan Street to the Columbia River, and help us really prioritize what those potential improvements could be. Another big outcome of having this plan that helps us identify those priorities is to be able to use that as a planning effort for a future tax increment financing district. So that's something very similar to what we did with North Wenatchee. We have the North Wenatchee Master Plan, which helped us identify all of the necessary infrastructure. This will help inform the same. The Northwest Studio plan team has Econ Northwest as one of their sub-consultants. They also did the North Wenatchee Master Plan, so they did really great work through there with the economic feasibility component and really helping us understand the numbers, the public investment, and the private outcomes. They also have Pertit and Nelson Nygaard on their team who have been working locally with a couple of other local agencies. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions on the contract.
So how many people are on the committee? Refresh me, is there 5 or 6 or 7? There's some downtown business owners, some
Yep.
folks living downtown.
Yep, so it's Rory, Todd Keys, Al Ruckard, Beth Stipe, Councilmember Hornby's on there as well, and then Rob Jammerman and myself participated on that. Todd Keys, did I say Todd Keys?
Yeah.
So they really helped us craft the scope of the RFP to select the consultant. We put the RFP out in December. We had one submittal, but we interviewed the team a couple weeks ago, and we felt like they really met kind of the intent of what we were looking to do. They really, these planning processes, they don't have any specific ideas as to what we're going to do. They have a good process and approach as to how to get that idea out of the different stakeholders and how to be more creative and then bring in the planning best practices into that process. So there's no specific outcome, but it's going to be nice to be able to have someone guide us along the way and bring in the right folks to bring to the table. The other thing that I will mention too is, a couple weeks ago we talked about parking and how do we address that, especially with the convention center remodel and expansion. And this could be one of those efforts to help us look at that at both a high level and then even zone in into a little bit further if we need to. So this might help us identify certain priority areas that we need to then delve into a little bit further. So the master plan, I think, is going to give us a lot of really great information to figure out how to plan for the next big projects.
Excellent. I was going to ask you about the parking, so it sounds like we'll integrate that at the right time as we sort of
Yep.
expand their work and try to figure out
Yeah.
where that fits.
Yep.
All right, any questions for Laura? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion for the City Council to approve the professional service agreement with Northwest Studio in the amount of $125,000 for the Reimagine Wenatchee Target Area Master Plan and authorize the mayor's signature.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hornby, second by Councilmember Harold, to approve the professional services agreement with Northwest Studio in the amount of $125,000 for the Reimagine Wenatchee Target Area Master Plan and authorize the. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
You might just stay up there while we figure out what I'm supposed to say for the mayor's report. So I think I'll just start with, obviously, Rob and his team we've agreed to hire Jake Lewin as our city engineer. We're excited for that. Of course, every time you make a promotion, that means there's a vacancy in the senior project engineering status, so we'll be out to work through how to fill that position, and sometimes it's another promotion, and then you got to hire the next, so it's quite a little process, but we're excited to have him on our team. Laura and I did meet yesterday with Doug Rigoni at Coast Hospitality, and I think we've sort of have a handshake agreement on what a new contract would look like. He did explain to us his desire to have a couple of years earlier on in the deal. I think our current contract ends at 2024. We basically said, hey, you got to start your new hotel renovation by the end of 2024. And he's like, I don't know, I can get supplies. And, he's got some money set aside and wants to do some more financing, so he asked for a couple of years of extension in there, which we agreed to, and then we just gave him 10 years from that point forward, and then an option at the city's option to extend for 5 more. So I think we're pretty close to having a deal that you might see in the next month or so to do the Coast Hotel portion with that. So I think we're getting pretty close to bringing you an agreement for your consideration. Laura, keep going.
So we received the project analysis back from the Office of the State Treasurer's Office for our North Wenatchee Tax Increment Financing District. So as part of the process, we have to have the State Treasurer review our project analysis to look at, how we came up with the numbers, what we're gonna finance with it. And so we received that last week. So we are finalizing the ordinance that the City Council will consider for on February 23rd. And that will be the final approval that we need to go ahead and implement the tax increment financing district. So that district will help us capitalize on the public infrastructure that's happening along the North Wenatchee area and be able to reinvest that to hope to see more private investment.
Yeah, and Brad has already emailed the assessor's office. They're working on sort of how they do the calculations and all that. So
Yep.
basically, if you guys adopt the ordinance in 2 weeks, TIF will be a thing and we'll be off and running
Yes.
to collect the increase in property tax by all
Next
the
year.
development that we've done down there.
Yeah, yep, so that's really exciting. That's been a learning process since it's a newer statute, but it's been nice to be able to get that moving forward. As Rob mentioned earlier, we are working on organizing a groundbreaking for Mega Kittrick on March 7th. So mark your calendars. We'll get some information out here soon. We're still trying to get some of our appropriate partner agencies, making sure that they will be able to attend. But March 7th looks to be the right date for everyone. So we're excited to do that. And then
I did spend Monday after our last meeting in Olympia. I drove over with Mayor Crawford, and we had a number of meetings in Olympia, and then testified in a bill late in the day on the aquatic center bill. I did meet with Senator Elias. Senator Elias is the Senate chairman of the Transportation Committee in the Senate, and we also met with the governor's office. The governor's office budget has the 85 million in the right bienniums that we need it to be. The Senate's budget has the same numbers and the same buckets. We did meet with Representative Fye, so I think we've got the appropriations part of our 85 million where we want it. We're just monitoring that, but we just went over just to make sure that there wasn't any questions, and so I think we had a very productive day to make sure that that 85 million is where we want it to be, and that there's some jockeying for position, if you will, around the state over who gets what when on the 16 or 17 billion dollars, but we've got assurances that we will get ours when it's important to us as the matching part. So that was a very long day. It's you leave at 7 and get home at 10. Those are long days. Anything else? I'm doing coffee and commerce in the morning at 8 o'clock with Mayor Crawford. So at the chambers, I think it's at their offices. So we'll give a little update on, give the community an update on what's going on with the city. And then in 2 weeks from today, Councilmember Cuevas, Mayor Pro Tem Cuevas, will be running the meeting. I'm getting an award from the Wenatchee World Pace Setter Award. So I will be attending that award ceremony. It happens to be on a Thursday at 5:30, so hard for me to be in both places. So Councilmember Cuevas will have the gavel, and he'll run the meeting in a couple of weeks.
Oh, boy.
Council members, what's going on in your end of the world?
Quick update from solid waste. Exciting things. I was looking for the House bill number that's going through right now, but there's a House bill going through that's going to possibly make it mandatory for all residents, both city and county, to do yard recycling. And I don't know that that's a great idea, because a lot of people do their own composting, as Mr. Koulas knows. And I think to have to recycle your yard waste, I think that kind of steps on some toes. They would also start requiring us to recycle glass again, by doing things similar to other states have done, like Oregon, where you've got basically vending machines that you would have to take your waste to.
Including deposits, like 10-cent deposits or something.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And they kept stressing that, the producers are going to pay for this. Well, the producer just passed the cost on to the consumer. So, the other thing happening, there's a small quantity generator, so small businesses that have hazardous waste disposal material. The March 7th is coming up. They can actually take advantage of that. And if they have things like 50-gallon drums of waste that they need to dispose of, there's a day for them to do that. That's all I got for today.
Excellent. Anybody else, council members?
Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, I will be attending city action days next week. I won't be here for public safety. Is there someone that could take my place? It's 3:30 on Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, so let someone know. So it'd be Thursday, hold on, I'm in the wrong month.
16.
Yeah, it's next Thursday, the 16th at 3:30.
Do we have a study session next week?
I don't believe we do.
No.
When are we gonna have one?
What we sort of have fallen to, and it's up to you guys to decide if you want to do it differently, we think we get so much work done in the committees that sometimes we think that would be overkill, but if you feel the need, I know Laura may have a small list of things that might need an in-depth or more deeper discussion, so feel free to share those with Laura, and if we decide there's one that's needed, we can pop one in.
And one more thing, I'll be on vacation from the 23rd through March 6th, and I will send both you and Tammy an email, okay?
All right, anything else? Travis, go ahead.
Quick update from the WDA. We had a robust conversation about parking. So the 2 hour, from 3 hour to 2 hour, we kind of have an agreement to move forward with some planning, and we'll see where that comes out. But should be coming to our table soon as a request to move that.
Okay, and I think Chief is getting closer to a parking, but we've gotten close before and haven't got to the finish line, so, no, nothing for sure yet, but I know he's still trying to make that job happen, so.
I think the parking attendant is a concern for everybody in the city, not just the WDA, but
Yeah.
we're trying.
There's enforcement going on right now, right?
I don't believe there's much enforcement going on.
Yes, but the downtown association is like kind of complaining.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So the car that's got all the little things on it isn't driving around, it hasn't been for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Jose, anything to add?
I'll be in meetings all next week. There's
Okay.
gonna be a lot of meetings, and I'll
Yeah.
probably say that in the next meeting too, what it is, yeah.
All right, I don't have anything else, so I think we are adjourned.
I just really don't know, Keith. I think before.